Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for an important Reforged announcement video. Big news. Real big news. And this is something that I didn't think we would ever do. Many people have asked for in the past. So what we have done is we've added a new faction to the .97 lineup, so that is going to make a grand total of, I believe, 5 new factions with their own unique playstyles and rosters that will be coming to you in patch .97. But before I talk about that, I want to address something that many people have asked about and have been very, very eager for, and that is a release date for patch .97. And I'm very happy to tell you that we've set a tentative release date. We're going to try and have everything out for you guys by the 15th of June. So that's about 3 or 4 weeks from the publishing of this video. That means you're going to get these new icons here. There's going to be a ton of reskins, brand new meta for you guys to explore and play around with, especially with new factions incoming. There's reskins, there's new units, there's all kinds of cool stuff that we've been working hard on. I'm very excited to finally have a release date on you. There's a light at the end of that tunnel for those of you who have been waiting so long and so patiently. So that's great news. But the new faction that we're adding is going to be the VALE of Dorwinion. And many people have asked for this in the past, and I flat out said it wasn't going to happen, but it looks like I was incorrect. So we have added Dorwinion. I want to talk to you a little bit about them now. Ignore the fact that they don't have unit cards. We haven't got around to making that yet. It's still a faction under construction, as it were. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Dorwinion and their faction bonuses and their faction concept and how they are intended to play. For those of you that are familiar with either the Warhammer Total War games or the tabletop games, many of you will recognize this right off the bat. Their playstyle has largely been inspired by the Asrai, so the Wood Elves. And in place of Forest Spirits, we're going to have a core of human units, the Elvelyn Wardens, which are elf friends. That's what Elvelyn means in Sindarin. And there's going to be 3 units that you rely on quite heavily, and that's the Elvelyn Wardens, the Vineguard, and the Marksman. In some of the videos I'm going to show you, the Wardens are called cohorts, but don't get too confused. We don't really know where the names are going to end up at this point. But the Elvelyn are low on damage and very, very high in defense, as you can see here. So, not a lot of punch behind them, but they do complement the Morroquendi and the Avari units very, very nicely. So, the low damage of the Avari is offset by the high damage of the Morroquendi units, and the Nandor units and the Avari units as well. So we've got the Morroquendi bows here and the Morroquendi pikes that have been slightly tweaked in terms of their stats. Morroquendi bows are a little bit more accurate, but it's still a unit that's shared with Dale, and they've also got poison arrows now, as many of the Morroquendi archers are going to have generally in Dorwinion. They've also got the Kilwin River Patrol, which is a unit that is also shared with Dale. Previously they're called I can't remember what it is, but it's something or other River Patrol or Lake Town River Patrol, something along those lines. The Keldwin is a river that runs through both Dale and Dorwinion, and so that's the name that we chose. It worked out quite nicely there. The Ironborn Axemen are kind of a stand-in right now. We're going to be amalgamating some of our lower tier shock units, so the Lumbermen and I think the Ironborn Axemen who are basically the same unit anyway, are going to be fused. And that's to save a little bit of space. We can add some more units to new factions later. And let's look at some of the Avari units here. Although I'm going to give you guys a closer look on the battlefield and a more detailed breakdown of their stats. But the Nandor Glade Riders are a Lancer unit. They're quite fragile, as the Nandor units tend to be. Nandor are very high on melee defense, but very low on armor, and the same applies to the Morroquendi and the Elven named units in here as well. And they complement the Elvelyn's low damage but high defense quite nicely. So, while the Elvelyn are pretty well the Woodland Spirits with their lower damage, the Morroquendi are stand-ins for the Asrai. So it's a very micro-intensive army. It's quite easy to make critical errors as a Dorwinion, which is something that I've noticed. But it's a fun as hell faction to play. It's very fast-paced. They've got some great hard-hitting units that it's fairly easy to get value off of, and we're going to take a look at them a little bit more closely. So without any further ado, let's pop onto the battlefield. I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Alright, so I think it's fitting to start with the Elvelyn core units. So we're going to be looking at the Elvelyn Wardens. Take a look at their stat breakdown there. Very high armor, very good melee defense. Not amazing, but it's still pretty good. Solid value of 8 and 9 shield value. They've also got perfect stamina. They have the same stamina as their elven counterparts, and their morale is fairly high at 14. So a very tanky unit. Not a ton of damage that it can do, but it is definitely worth taking to maybe use to defend some of the more equipped pikes, for example. But altogether, it's a very strong unit with a ton of longevity, really high defense values. Over here, we have the Elvelyn Vineguard. Their shield's a little bit lower than it's going to end up being. I think they might end up clocking in with a shield value of 9. Spears tend to be a little bit lower on defense, so we've got 5 defense here, but still that 10 armor. They've got shield wall. Naturally, they have a bonus fighting cavalry, and if you charge them from the front, then they will reflect some of that charge damage back at you. So a solid spear unit all around, lower on damage as you'd expect from the Elvelyn. But now we move on to a unit that's fairly atypical. Now, the marksmen here are low on damage. They've got higher defense skill because they use swords. They've got the 10 armor, but one notable difference is that the Elvelyn marksmen have 6 missile attack, and they have high tier accuracy. It's really one of the only damaging Elvelyn units that are available to Dorwinion. They are currently capped at 3. That may not make it to release, but they're a very tanky archer unit. Really great in skirmishes, great for weathering the storm, even against high-tier archers like the elves, or like Mirkwood in particular, or even Lorien in the upcoming patch. They can weather that storm fairly ably, being as heavily armored as they are. But let's take a look at one of the other Elvelyn units that's a little bit more damage focused, and then we'll take a look at the Elven counterpart here, and I'll explain some of the differences between the two. So the Elvelyn Hammer Guards are a little bit more of a support bodyguard. They help the Elvelyn be extra sturdy, as they have a solid but short-ranged morale buffing effect of 10 morale and 25 meters. They are armor piercing. They've got the improved shock bonus that all of the shock units in 0.97 have been given, and they've got a pretty decent attack there. The most notable thing about them, however, is their armor. 13 armor, I think, is the highest of any human unit currently in the game. Only the dwarves tend to reach 13. Some of the high elf and Noldor units hit 13, but these guys are exceptional in that regard. So they've got lower melee defense, so armor piercing is going to be a little bit more useful against them, but most things are going to bounce off them fairly harmlessly. You're going to need a solid elite unit with some good armor piercing to take them down quickly, and they're a little bit less expensive than a lot of other units. 1200, they're not too bad. They are not, however, locked morale, which is an important thing to note. They can be routed, and when they disappear, so does their morale effect, and that can have a pretty profound impact on the way that the other Elvelyn units will perform. And then over here we have the Deathrogue Erin, which sounds cool, but it's actually just really cool. So it means Shadow Wolves of the Forest in Sindarin, and they are quite different. They're also armor piercing, like the Elvelyn Hammer Guard. However, their defense skill is way higher. Their damage is significantly higher. They are locked. I believe that they're locked morale. They've got a small bonus against cavalry. They cause fear, and they've got a smaller morale effect of 2 and 25 meters, so they can inspire. But they're not nearly as solid of a support bodyguard as the Elvelyn, and of course their armor value is significantly lower. It's nearly half of what the Elvelyn get. So there's a choice to be made there. They're a little bit more like Palace Guard, except a bit squishier in terms of their armor, and they've got a little bit more utility. Moving on over here, let's take a look at some of the Elven units. We've got the Morquendi Bows. This is a unit that, as I mentioned earlier, is shared with Dale, but with one notable difference over their previous iteration, is that they have the Nandoran Glaive, which is a really cool weapon. I believe it was created by Taurion. I can't remember the rest of his name, but it was shared freely with the modding community and like Reforged and DAC, and anybody who wants to get their hands on it can use it. So then the Dark Cloud did some retexturing on it, and now they have the Nandor Glaive, which is going to give them a little bit of a bonus versus cavalry. They also have a solid charge bonus here of 15. They've got a little bit less armor. They used to have 7, now they've got 6, and I think they've gone up with their melee skill by 1 or so, and their damage, I believe, has also gone up by 1. The most notable difference, however, is that the Morquendi Bows have poison arrows, which is something that I was planning on limiting to Lothlorien, but it just fits too well with the concept of the Morquendi units that I really just, I couldn't resist giving it to them as well. Over here we have the Keldwyn River Patrol, again a unit that is shared with Dale. Pretty straightforward. They are a Javelin unit. You can have 2 of them. Aaronborn Axemen, there is going to be a lower tier shock unit. It might not be the Aaronborn Axemen. We are looking at amalgamating things, and I think I mentioned that. Morquendi Stalkers here are a hybrid unit. They are a hybrid melee cavalry and bow cavalry unit. They can also currently hide anywhere. So they've got a lot of utility to them. They are, however, extremely fragile. They don't have shields, and they've only got 6 armor. And of course, their melee defense, a fairly respectable melee defense skill of 12, is not going to do anything against missile units. They are extremely vulnerable in that regard. They're fairly expensive too at 850, so you're going to want to take care of them. You can only have 2 of them as well. Over here we have the Erfini Tower, which literally means Forest Knights in Sindarin. I know, real creative, right? They have an interesting armor, or rather stat spread. They've got really high damage in close quarters thanks to the Nandoran Glaive. They've got really high melee defense skill. They've got a respectable armor value of 8. They are, however, very, very low on their shield value of 9. Armor-piercing archers in particular will chew these guys apart, as will any armor-piercing projectiles, since their armor value is so low, as is their shield value, and of course missiles will bypass the defense skill entirely. They're a bit more expensive to make up for the fact that they are just monsters in melee, so strong. They also have a minor inspire effect of 2 and 25, and they frighten nearby enemy infantry. They've got a devastating charge, of course. Over here we have the Nandor Glade Riders, a very interesting unit. Fairly expensive at 700. It's really more of a mid-tier price tag. They have a brutal charge of 820. Most non-knight units do not get 820. The only exception, I think, is the is some bodyguard units, and there's a unit in Cardalin that gets it as well. I can't remember the name of the blue guys. Tharbad Cavalry, that might be it. These guys cannot hide anywhere, however. They are capped at 3, which allows you to bring them in fairly substantial numbers to get 150 of them on max size, assuming you bring 3 units. They hit hard, they move fast, they melt to arrow fire. They just wither. One other notable difference with the Nandor Glade Riders is that they get a +1 versus cavalry, so instead of the Lancer penalty of -2 versus all cav, they're only going to get -1. So they're fairly versatile, but very fragile. Over here we have the Morquendi Pikes, who have been given a new weapon model. They are still Pikes, however, and their stats have been shifted around slightly. I think they've got a little bit more defense skill, and their damage has remained the same, and they've lost 1 armor. Now we get into a really important unit for Dorwinion, the Nandor Glade Guard. They're expensive, they're capped at 3, they are lock morale, they have armor piercing, and they can hide anywhere. They also get a small combat bonus in the woods, as many of the Nandor units do. They've got a devastating charge in addition to. They are, however, exceedingly fragile. 5 armor. 5 armor on these guys. I think it's the same for the... It's the same for the Dorwinion Lancers. Let me just double check this here. Yeah, it's 5. So, very vulnerable to almost any kind of missile unit. As many of the Elven Swordmasters in 0.97 have. These guys actually are lacking a trait that they have. Many of the Elven Swordmasters get +3 just shield value. It's kind of it's sort of Jedi reflexes. Someone suggested in the comments, and I really liked the idea, so we implemented it, and it's worked out nicely. But they don't have that shield value, so they will melt to arrow fire, and while they won't rout, they can be rendered combat ineffective quite quickly. And I think that pretty well does it for their roster. I do have a couple of replays to show you. I pre-recorded them, and I had 3 that I wanted to show off, but the third one, due to some version conflicts and the patch being updated since I was recording, unfortunately I wasn't able to get the third one to work. So you're going to have to just content yourself with 2. I know, it's tragic. You only get 2 awesome replays, but that's just how it's going to have to be. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little breakdown. I hope it's exciting to see this new faction, and I hope you're really going to enjoy seeing them in action. But yeah, without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the replays. Welcome, guys, to our first Dorwinion replay. This is the first replay for Dorwinion that you will see anywhere. The player who's going to be using them today is Sin of the Dark Cloud. I know it still says Saxons, where it's a test build. We're working on that. But he's brought some more Quinty Stalkers, the tune of 2 units of them. I believe he's also got a couple units of Nandor Glade Riders. Actually, he's got 3 units of Nandor Glade Riders and the deadly and beautiful Forest Knights, the Effen and Tower. Very, very strong units. Oh yeah, one thing I think I forgot to mention about the Nandor Glade Riders as well. It's my bad. I screwed up my own faction breakdown video for a faction that I helped design. The Nandor also get a minus or +1 versus cavalry. So all Lancers get -2 penalty versus cavalry. The Nandor Glade Riders only have a -1. So they're a little bit more deadly in just about every respect when it comes to close quarters. But yeah, 3 units of Glade Riders, 2 units of the more Quinty Stalkers, 1 unit of the Effen and Tower. He's also brought a bunch of Elvelen cohorts, as you would expect. 2 units of the Nandor Glade Guard. I believe 2 units of the Elvelen Marksman, a couple units of the Patrolmen of the Redwater. He's also brought the Deathrug and Erin, a bunch of Elvelen Vine Guard to help tie his infantry line together. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of the Vine Guard, and I think maybe 1 or 2 units of the cohort. They might be mixed in there. I could be wrong, or maybe it's just got 1 Elvelen cohort. Huh, interesting. But yeah, that's going to do for Sin of the Dark Cloud's army. Let's go ahead and see what his opponent, Lothlorien, is bringing to the battle today. Across the field from Sin, we have the host of the Golden Wood being played by Tundra's Fox. And this is going to be an interesting matchup for Dorwinion because of how vulnerable their important units are to arrows. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, in fact, the Lothlorien archers most of them have been given a custom projectile that can be potentially devastating against the kind of warfare that Dorwinion likes to wage. But he's brought some Spears of the Wood here out front, a little bit of a fodder unit. I'm seeing a couple units of Lorinond archers in the front there, a bunch of Lorinond axes in reserve, got some Karos Galathon's Guardians in the center, and that's going to be a nightmare for Dorwinion, especially when they don't have any pikes to answer them. More of the axes, Kindred of Celeborn, got at least 1 unit here of the Lorinond Warriors, and I'm thinking 2 units of the Lorinond Spears as well, and they're going to be hanging out on the wings with 2 companies of Lorinond Mounted Company. And to tie the whole shebang together, we got 1 unit here of the Riders of the Golden Wood, armed with their new Silverthorn arrows. So you're going to see a lot of new features in this video. Oh, did I mention the Kindred of Celeborn already? They also have their own special split shot projectile, which is potentially very powerful against a faction like Dorwinion. So that's going to do for... Oh, you know what? There's some hidden units here. Shh. There's a couple of the Staff Masters, I believe, 1 on either wing with their armor upgrade as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the replay. So on each wing, Sin is going to swing wide with his Quinty Stalkers. They're a little bit shorter on range than a lot of the other Elven archers here, so this is going to be something of a gambit on his part, but he's certainly testing Lothlorien's preparedness. Lothlorien is going to counter on their right wing with the Riders of the Golden Wood. 1v1, it'd be interesting to see who could win that fight. Quinty Stalkers, not liking the look of that Cantabrian circle. They're going to fall back without firing a shot and without taking a single casualty. Over on the other side, however, there is no such obstacle in their way to prevent them from coming in around Sin of the Dark Cloud's lines. Sin is very, very wisely keeping his spacing generous here between his Quinty Stalkers and the rest of the Lorien Archer Corps. Over on this side, there's just Spears and just some Lorinond Mounted Company who are now running the other direction. So both of these units are vulnerable to being shot in the back. Nobody likes it, but it's going to happen anyway. Lorinond Spears under some heavy fire here from those poison arrows. Although, surprisingly enough, coming out unscathed. Sin of the Dark Cloud is going to risk coming a little bit closer in order to get a few more kills. Over on this side, it looks like the Quinty Stalkers have doubled back, and they're beginning to pew-pew with the Lorien right wing. The Riders of the Golden Wood, however, are still firmly in place, and a little bit of elevation here is going to help them get some pot shots off on the Quinty Stalkers. And we can see about half dozen or so, 8 of them there actually, have been sniped out by those Lorien archers. Out here in the front, not a lot happening. Sin of the Dark Cloud so far has been a little bit static with his Elvelen. Really, there's no need to push them forward just yet. They're not a match for the Lorien infantry. What Sin of the Dark Cloud wants to do is kind of wage a war of attrition here at a distance. When the Elvelen marksmen are well suited to that kind of warfare. They can stand up to just about anything the Lorien archers, elite and deadly though they may be, will throw at them with their armor score of 10. So even though he is outnumbered in just sheer volume of skirmishers, he does, of course, have a little bit of a trick up his sleeve. Pardon me, guys. Over here, the Morquenny Stalkers raining down death and destruction upon the Lorinand Mounted Company. Pardon me. As they retreat, unfortunately not managing to get a single kill, although I think I heard someone's death wail, and indeed one of them is going to go down. Let's see how we're doing over here. So far, Sin of the Dark Cloud's cavalry probes have yielded fairly modest results. He has now shifted all of his cavalry killing potential over onto his left wing. 3 units of the Glade Riders here alongside the Erfin and Tower. That would be a tough thing for Lothlorien to fight with the troops they have over here, but of course, naturally, they've got a lot of their bowmen nearby. So Sin of the Dark Cloud does not dare move forward with those fragile Nandor units within range of the deadly Lorinand archers. We got over here, it looks like the Morquenny Stalkers are now beating a hasty retreat, having done a little bit of damage to Tundrous Fox's left wing. Nothing substantial. I can see the reason Tundrous Fox brought over a company of his Lorinand archers. That would be a scary thing indeed for the Morquenny Stalkers to have to deal with. They do not have the numbers, and they do not have the defensive capability that would go all the way in Lorien's favor, so the Dark Cloud is going to get out of there with that expensive unit. And for now, it's kind of a waiting game. Let's go ahead, fast forward just a tad. Yeah, both sides weighing their options. You'll find that a lot of competitive multiplayer games between experienced players will end up like this, where people want to be very careful about the moves that they make. That can sometimes lead to people having a big think, like what we're seeing right here. Let's see, Elvel and Marksmen have been shifted to Sin of the Dark Cloud's left wing, probably to guard against any incursions by the Riders of the Goldenwood. Elvel and Marksmen looks like they move forward, got a nice little shot off, maybe on some of the Lorinand archers here. It doesn't look like they killed anybody. Oops. Let's go ahead and kick up the speed again. And Tundrous Fox is slowly sneaking his way forward. Ooh, a big advance there. It looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud is coming back again with the Morquenny Stalkers, trying to prey on the Lorinand Spearmen. From the front, that's not going to be terribly useful. And the Kindred of Celeborn are going to have something to say about it as well. I'm going to get a chance to see their split shot in action here. There you go. That fire, that orange fire streaking out behind them as those shots split and arc into the Morquenny Stalkers. They're not going to want to stick around there for too long. I think a few more of them perhaps are going to fall there. I'm not sure if that was from the Kindred of Celeborn or not. But yeah, something deadly happened here to the Morquenny Stalkers. So this does really highlight the vulnerability of these deadly Nandor units to missile fire. Tundrous Fox switching to the other side, bobbing and weaving a little bit here with his Riders of the Golden Woods, trying to keep Sin of the Dark Cloud on his toes. But I think now's a good time to go ahead and fast forward here. Now the Lorien forces are going to be the ones to move forward again and again and again, and that's not going to quite bring them into range of the Elvel Marksmen, but I think this next move forward is, and the Elvel Marksmen are now beginning to loose their arrows upon the advancing Lorien host. Well, let's see what kind of damage they can do. Well, let's come down on the Spearmen of the Wood here. I think he's probably going after the Lorinand archers, since the Spearmen are not exactly a good target, but nonetheless, even through that hefty shield value from the front, the Spears of the Wood are being felled at a fairly alarming rate, I would say. Tundrous Fox's fodder first line is slowly being whittled away. Lorinand archers not quite in range. They're going to have to move forward into this arrow storm in order to return fire there against the Elvel archers firmly entrenched on the top of that small low hill. Oh, now the Lorinand archers are going to have something to say. Well, let's see the effect. Not seeing too much. Riders of the Golden Wood moving forward, looking to menace the Nandor. They're very tanky. They've got good armor. Pardon me. And bit of a hiccup there. And the Riders of the Golden Wood have really high missile damage as well. The one thing that they lack is the same ammunition as the Morquenny Stalkers, as the Silverthorn arrows are a little bit lower in ammunition generally than other arrow types. Oof, but you can see the effect here, especially with the Cantabrian Circle. Makes it far harder for the Morquendi to get a good shot off, and they're slowly but surely being whittled down by the numerically inferior but quality superior Riders of the Golden Wood. And those blue arrows just diving in there, claiming many of the Morquendi. Sin of the Darkcloud is going to have to pull back here, or risk losing most of his Morquendi Stalkers. And that's a big investment. This is 2,000 gold worth of florins right here that's being chewed up by the Riders of the Golden Wood. It might even be a decent idea to just engage the Riders of the Golden Wood in close quarters. The Morquendi Stalkers have a really high bonus against cavalry, and they've got good base damage as well. And I think Sin of the Darkcloud realizes this, so he's going to go and get a rear charge here against the Riders of the Golden Wood. And it is going to be enough to pull the rest of the unit back into combat. Tundra Fox isn't going to wait around, however. He's going to get out of there as quickly as he can. We can see those units already beginning to fall away, even with their 2 HP and high armor. Ooh, some of the Morquendi have managed to catch up with them. And the Riders of the Golden Wood are suffering heavy casualties in this retreat. Although, arguably, it's gone worse for the Morquendi. Yeah, now a little bit scattered. They are going to have to retreat quite a ways across the plains here. Oh, how the Lornan Archers doing? Not very well at all. The Elvelen are definitely making their presence felt. Is it both units? No, that's just one unit right there. Really get a sense of how powerful these guys are. One unit devastating these Lornan Archers. See what they've managed to do in return. They've managed to kill about 10 of the Elvelen marksmen. So yes, very tanky. Good, a very good example of what the Elvelen are capable of, I think. Especially in terms of holding up the damage. Moving on over here, it looks like the Riders of the Golden Wood have come back, now down to 24 from their original 32. And the Morquendi Stalkers are still giving them a good show. Depleted though they may be. There's maybe about less than 30. Even so, if they were able to close ranks with the Riders of the Golden Wood, they might lose, but I think that they would do critical damage to the Riders, especially weakened as they are now. But it seems Sin of the Darkcloud would prefer to preserve their numbers, so he's going to fall back. But that will leave these Nandor Glade Guard here open to some enfilading fire by the Riders of the Golden Wood. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. It looks like Sin of the Darkcloud has instead opted to keep his Morquendi Stalkers where they are. Try and fend off the Riders of the Golden Wood. Gonna go for another charge here. Tundra's Fox isn't looking like he's gonna have it though. Well, Morquendi doing their best to get in there. They're not quite so fast as the Riders of the Golden Wood, unfortunately. It's a big risk riding close like this, but it has felled another couple of Riders of the Golden Wood, and certainly using a lot of their ammunition. And those Morquendi Stalkers are going to be all but destroyed here in an extended skirmish battle. So that's a tough one. The Riders of the Golden Wood are probably one of the best elite horse archers in the game, except maybe some of the things that Khan can bring to bear. So it's a fairly typical result, but still unfortunate for the very expensive Morquendi, which is why I think that they're, as I mentioned earlier, that their price is probably going to go down just a little bit, maybe about 100 or so gold. Meanwhile, on Lorien's first line, Spears of the Wood looking very tattered, as are the Lornan Archers, now down to about half strength. There's been some light losses here as well along the front line, like the main front line of Lorien. Some of those Lornan axes have been claimed by the Elvelen. What do we have over here? Rise of the Golden Woods getting in behind Sin of the Darkcloud's position. And that's going to force a response here. Elvelen marksmen moving to zone them out at range. Nearby, the Nandor will be there to provide any support in the event of a crisis, namely the Riders of the Golden Wood charging down those poor exposed Elvelen. Riders of the Goldenwood, maybe flying a bit too close to the sun here. Well, there were no nearby Elven marksmen, I think, who were able to deal any damage to them, so they're going to get off scot-free. This unit now completely out of ammunition, having done a fair amount. Like, look at that. I think that's the product of one unit, and partially the product of Tundra's Fox's fairly tight formation. It does help the missile units get their job done, but nonetheless, impressive, I think. And now I think it's time for a real showdown. Senator of the Dark Cloud maneuvering his Nandor units away from the front line. That is a good idea. There is still a unit of Lornon archers in reserve. They are deadly and accurate, and they would make mincemeat of the Glade Guard at range, even if the Glade Guard could take them quite handily in close quarters. Their biggest weakness is, of course, missiles, and that's something that Lorien does exceedingly well. So we have a general charge here on the part of Tundra's Fox. Lornon axes moving in together with the Karis Galathon units, and the Elvelyn marksmen, still with ammunition, are going to give them hell. Meanwhile, the patrolmen of the Redwater are going to pop out of hiding. And I think this could be an ugly thing for the center. Looks like the Lornon warriors took some fire from the Elvelyn on the way in. Those two units of javelins, however, are going to be very useful against Karis Galathon Guardians. Probably the only thing in Dorwinion's roster that they've brought here that can safely deal with a unit as powerful as these 2 HP pikes. Oh, a little bit of friendly fire there, but some of them are striking true and hitting the Lorien elves. What we got here? A big sally from Sin of the Dark Cloud, all of his Nandor cavalry, and now we're going to see the strength of Dorwinion really put into action. And you can see almost immediately, even the Staff Masters are having a great time fighting the Elvelyn. All across the line, the Elvelyn are going to lose this fight. They need Dorwinion, or they need the Nandor elves to make this possible. Sin of the Dark Cloud, of course, has a few reserve units here, 3 units of the Elvelyn infantry, or the Elven infantry. But this is going to be the game-changing thing here. All of these 820 charge cav. Nice charge here into the rear of the Karen Amroth Staff Masters. That is going to flatten them. Oh, not as good of a charge as it could have been. Erfinen Tower charging down the Lornon archers. And that is going to be our screenshot for the thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen. Taking a nice bite out of them, occupying them, keeping them busy. Smaller units back here are going to try and pick up the slack, but they're going to be focusing on the Erfinen Tower. Not the worst idea, but also not the best. Meanwhile, over here, it looks like the Nandor Glade Riders have taken heavy losses in the face of the Lornon Mounted Company, backed up with the Lornon Spears. Over here, we've got another unit of Mounted Company coming to lend some relief to the beleaguered Lorien archers who are getting hammered by the Nandor cavalry. All of these hammer and anvil strikes here going off all at once. Another charge here from the Nandor Glade Riders. Gonna smash into the rear of the Karen Amroth Staff Masters. Erfinen Tower ping-ponging back and forth from the Lorien skirmish line to the Lorien main line. And now the tide is starting to turn a little bit. What do we got over here? Lornon Mounted Company getting a nice charge against the Nandor Glade Riders before they were able to pull out of this engagement. But the damage has been done here. The Karen Amroth Staff Masters thoroughly outnumbered and heavily depleted. Meanwhile, over here, patrolmen of the Riverwater moving into a flanking position, but they were caught out by the Riders of the Goldenwood. The Riders of the Goldenwood being engaged by the Nandor Glade Riders. They're going to pull out of there and try and get their charge bonus off again, because that is what they are strongest at. And of course, there's the presence of the Lornon Spears here to reckon with. I wonder if we'll see these guys come back again. There's still 11 of them. Might see them reform. Erfinen Tower, however, the real heroes of the hour. And they're smashing the Lorien lines apart. And you can see now the Lorien warriors and the Lorien axes are actually starting to lose against the combined arms here of the armies of Dorwinion. And now Sin of the Dark Cloud is moving in with his damaging reserves, 2 units of Nandor Glade Guard, and the Deathrug and Adin. These guys going for a flanking charge, taking a little bit of fire on the way in. What do we got over here? Nandor Glade Riders leading some of the Lorien units on a merry chase. Lorien Mounted Company going to pull back now, head towards the line. Another company here of Lornon Mounted Company trying to crush this unit of patrolmen of the Redwater who are giving them such trouble. Riders of the Goldenwood looking very heavily depleted now at this point. F and N Tower are in the area. Let's see if they drop in to say hello to the Dorwinion Mounted Company. It's looking like no. Oh, maybe. Oh, bit of a missed micro there. So the Dark Cloud's going to use them to shut down the missile units, which is a good idea. Missiles have their Lorien specialty, and they have not been able to be used to maximum effectiveness here against Dorwinion, and it is starting to show. Over here we have the Glade Guard chopping down what's left of the Riders of the Golden Wood as they try to escape. Dorwinion Mounted Company giving chase to the F and N Tower, which is exactly what is needed. F and N Tower are drawing off resources that Lothlorien could use to try and shut down the flanking movement from Dorwinion, and they're also engaging a lot of these missile units in close quarters. So there's only one of their 3 missile units that are online right now, and they are terribly depleted. So this is the kind of game that Dorwinion likes to play. And our Glade Guard now pushing in here against the Lorien Spears. I want to show you guys how strong these guys are. And our Glade Guard, depleted though they are, going up against the most a similarly intact unit of Lorien Spears, and just look at them drop. Balance of forces is evenly matched, but honestly, the Lorien Spears are getting hacked to bits there by the deadly Nandor Glade Guard. Over on this side, it's a bit of a different story. The Elvelen are starting to thin out. The Lorien units are beginning to claw their way through the thick armor of the Elvelen, but the F and N Tower constantly in the back lines, proving to be such a thorn in Tundra's Fox's side, and they're just evening out the fight. Notice that they are staying away from the pike units in the center there, and there's a very good reason for that. Experienced players know that if you turn pikes around into charging cavalry, you can get a lot of value off of those pikes, and it is, of course, going to activate the melee defense value for the pikes from the front, so not quite so many of them are going to die. It's a big, it would be a big mistake, I think, to take the F and N Tower, strong though they may be, and charge them into the rear of the Karis Galathon's Guardians. This is probably the best play I think that Dark Cloud can make, and he's just leading the Dorwinion Mounted Company here on a merry chase. Kindred of Celeborn being disrupted once again. The Dorwinion Archers here now down to 27, and I think the other unit has been almost completely destroyed. Yeah, 9 is still remaining. Patrolman of the Redwater still online. Glade Guard just shredding the Dorwinion Spears. Remember, they started with almost even numbers. Spears are definitely not equipped to fight this kind of battle. Over in the center, though, things are looking grim for Dorwinion. We've got some Glade Guard here, and we've also got the Deathrougin, I believe, who are somewhere mixed in here. They're definitely around. Yeah, there they are. And they're now down to 27, heavily depleted thanks to the efforts of the Karis Galathon Guardians. This is a tough one. If Dorwinion doesn't have pikes to answer these guys, it's not an easy fight. They're going to have to rely on surrounding them, and they're just not able to do that in their center. Over here, the Elvelen are, even though the F and N Tower have done such great work, the Elvelen are still kind of struggling a little bit. The last of the Lorien Spears beginning to fall. I wonder what happened. Oh, there goes the Lorien General. That's significant. So the Lorien General was fighting in the center. Kindred of Celeborn winding up for a shot here, probably against the Nandor and the Patrolman. But where, oh where, have the F and N Tower gone? They are still online, and that is huge for Sin of the Dark Cloud. Still 10 of them left. They are very, very capable of being effective here. They're going to get a beautiful rear charge here into the Dorwinion Archers. Just taking another big bite out of Tundra's Fox's remaining missile power. Ooh, and if they're lucky here, they might even rout them. Nice rear charge into the Kindred of Celeborn, and that's gonna skewer quite a lot of them. You can see them getting to drop, and again they are being disrupted. Dorwinion Mounted Company doing what they can, but against the F and N Tower, they have little hope, even with the close support of the Kindred of Celeborn. Let's take a look at their percentages there. 73 to 73. It's very evenly matched, and Lorien is breaking through the center, but they are losing the fight for their back lines. The Karis Galathon's Guardians are really the cornerstone of this army. They're what's keeping it all together. The Deathroin have fallen victim to them, as have the second unit of the Nandor Glade Guard, who are now quite heavily depleted. Although the more that they push in, the more that these pikes find themselves surrounded. And we got over here, Patrolman of the Redwater, still doing work. Going after the Karen Amroth Staff Masters. Yeah, managing to finish them off. There's a company of Dorwinion Axes over here who might swing the battle back in favor of Lorien, at least on this left wing. Let's see if the patrolmen of the Redwater have anything to say about that. Looks like no. Ooh, the Elvelen are starting to break. Lorien is starting to break. There's breaking everywhere. And Spears of the Wood, strangely enough, are still in the fight. And the Elvelen seem victorious on their right wing. Things are iffy on the left, and in the center they have been soundly defeated by Lothlorien. This is a tough one. Lorien Spears now breaking. Patrolmen of the Redwater free to do whatever they please. Still a fairly hefty contingent here of the Nandor Glade Guard. A nice rear charge into those Karis Galathon Guardians. Could be just what the Doctor ordered. Oh no, close range fire from the Kindred of Celeborn though. The Nandor Glade Guard charging in there to get some revenge for their fallen brothers. Let's see what happens to the Kindred. They've been quite weakened at this point. It might be possible for these 28 Glade Guard to take a big bite out of them and possibly even defeat them. Well, the Elvelen have broken through. And the center is very much Lothlorien's. Oh, the Lorien Axis here have broken the other wing. So the Elvelen have lost on the center and on the left. All these Lorien Axes are in some trouble. Erfinen Tower have come to claim them. Patrolmen of the Redwater aren't going to give an inch either. This could be a rout. Oh, Morquendi. Yeah, the Morquendi get in there. And with the presence of the fear-causing Erfinen Tower, they're actually going to start to flee. So now the Karis Galathon Guardians are most of what's left of Lothlorien's infantry. Over on the right, the Elvelen were victorious with the aid of the Nandor and with some timely reinforcements from the patrolmen of the Riverwater. Over here, the Elvelen marksmen fighting alongside the Nandor Glade Guard. 20 of them left over, and none of the Kindred of Celeborn have fallen. So the Lorien elites, so far, reigning supreme. Lorien archers here in battle with the Erfinen Tower, slowly disappearing, but they've just been such an important unit in this battle. Very much so in the Darkcloud Saviors. The Nandor cavalry unfortunately got bogged down quite quickly. Some of them were able to get some solid rear charges against the Lothlorien line, but the Erfinen Tower, even if the other Nandor, even if the only thing that they did was to cover for the Erfinen Tower, it was definitely worth it in this battle. They've just gotten so much done. And I can't wait to see their kill count at the end of this, as I'm sure you can't either. Oh, another one of the Erfinen Tower has fallen. Going for a rear charge here. Ooh, that's ugly. With the loss of their general and the fear-causing nature of the... wow, they broke like I wouldn't believe. Holy crap. Yeah, I mean, army losses, being heavily outnumbered. There go the Kindred of Celeborn. And the Erfinen Tower proving their worth once again. But of course, they're going to be next to useless against the Karis Galathon's Guardians. And there's not a lot that Dorwinion has left that would be particularly effective against them. I think I saw the Death Root again Aaron down to 5. That's just disappointing. Oh, they managed to claim one, though. Get him! Now Sim the Darkcloud is going to need to pour everything that he's got into surrounding these guys. A lot of the Elvelen here don't have what it takes to get through their armor, and certainly can't do it from the front. I think he's still got some of the Nandor left, though, so he might be okay. 15 Glade Guard over here. Some Elvelen marksman. He's got his general and the Erfinen Tower nearby to help inspire the troops, but this is going to be an ugly one. This is not a fight that the Elvelen are really capable of winning without significant support, and that support just doesn't exist at this late stage in the battle. Not in any significant measure. And here they come, the Elvelen marksmen and what remains of the Glade Guard. 15 of them with a rear charge. Ooh. Ooh, that's pretty nasty, actually. Down to 41. I'm going to go ahead, fast forward it just a little bit here. We'll witness... oh, well, whatever betide, we're going to see it. The Karis Galathon Guardians are really giving it to them. Yeah, it's mostly the Elvelen in there, and like I said, on their own, they're just not capable of this. Got some patrolmen routing off, even with the presence of the general nearby. One more Quindi Stalker. Oh no, two more Quindi Stalkers. That one was the Bannerman. It's taken everything the Sin of the Dark Cloud has left to deal with these Guardians. And the Glade Guard down to 9. But they're in there. Spearman now pushing through as you want to try and do to counter pikes. Would suck for Sin of the Dark Cloud to lose at this late stage in the battle to just one remaining unit of pikes. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to use his Patrolman of the Redwater against them. They would have absolutely devastated this unit of Karis Galathon's Guardians very, very quickly. But he had other designs, and he needed them for flanking attacks and for infiltrating fire against the rest of the Lothlorians' infantry line. So who's to say what the better choice was? Oh, down to 17. Aw, they're losing. Very quickly repositioning his more Quindi Stalkers, so they're better able to fire into the exposed rear of the Karis Galathon's Guardians. You'll also note that Sin of the Dark Cloud has not completed the encirclement. He has left something open for the Guardians, and that is so he can shoot them. I think it's time to go ahead and 6 times this. That's about all that needs to be said here. Final percentages. So we got 95 to 96. It's not quite over yet. 96 to 96. A really good game, a great example of how to win as Dorwinion, and how even when facing a faction that theoretically, with the amount of missiles and the powerful missiles that they can bring, should be a solid counter to them, they can still come out on top, which is kind of cool. Let's take a look here. The Erfin and Tower, 338, definitely pulled their weight here. One of the more Quindi Stalkers only got 7. Very unfortunate for them, but the rest of their lineup did alright. Deathroog and Erin weren't exactly effective, mostly because they had to fight Karis Galathon pikes. Some of the Glade Guard did better than the others. I think the one with 63 is probably the one fighting in the center. But still, 63 dead elves for Lothlorien, whose unit size is generally about 100 for their heavier units. It's still significant. 128 on the Patrolman of the Redwater, 80 on the Patrolman of the Redwater. Elvelyn did alright. Marksman not with 100. Yeah, you can really see how everyone fulfills the roles that I explained to you earlier in their roster breakdown. So this is one of the battles I want to show to you today. I have 2 more to get to. We got another win and another loss, but I'm not going to tell you which is which. I'll see you guys in just a few moments. And here we are on the Grassy Plains. Got another 1v1 for you. I believe this is Dorwinion versus the Misty Mountains. And today Dorwinion is going to, or this time I should say, Dorwinion is going to be played by FFA Muffins. He's brought 2 units of the Nandor Glade Riders. I think just 2. Nope, he's brought the Regulation 3. 1 unit of Erfin and Tower. He's probably going to go a little bit harder on his infantry, I would expect. So we got the Deathroog and Erin right here. Also got some Aaronvorn Axemen, surprisingly enough. A whole bunch of Elvelyn Cohort. I think there's about 4 units there. 3 to 4 units of the Elvelyn Vanguard. A couple units of the Elvelyn Marksmen as well. And I'm not seeing any of the Nandor. Any of the Nandor Glade Guard and such. Oh, no, never mind. They are actually hidden here amongst the Elvelyn. 1 company there of the Nandor Glade Guard. And we have 2. We do indeed have 2. So that's going to do it for his army. Let's go ahead and see what his opponent, the Misty Mountains, have brought to the battle today. And the army across the field from Muffins is going to be again commanded by Tundra's Fox. Today he's going to be playing as the Misty Mountains, which is one of his favorites. He's brought some Heavy Goblin Spears, as you do as the Misty Mountains, as you do. Lots of Heavy Gobbo Infantry. 1, 2, 3... Yeah, about 3 units of the Heavy Gobbos. Another company here of the Gobbo Spears. Got some Mountain Uruk Blades. Oh yeah! New model for you guys here. Not bad, eh? Yeah, the Mountain Uruk Blades. They're a nice mid-tier option. Quite numerous. Really good armor. Good attack. But not amazing shield or melee defense values. I think he's brought the Regulation 3. Also, a single company here of the Snow Trolls. The Cave Troll Drummers, as you do as Misty Mountains. Also got some Goblin King's Bodyguard. 1 unit of the Mangonel. 1 company of Archers. And I would bet dollars to donuts that there are some Snaga Stalkers here, or Snaga Skirmishers. Yeah, the Javelin ones here on the front line, which is going to be a bit of a tough time for the Elvelyn. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll see you guys in just a few moments. Oh, no, I forgot. There's cavalry. Got some Warg Riders here, and some Warg Skirmishers. Ooh. Once Dorwinion sees that, they're going to wish that they brought some of the more Quindi Stalkers. That's okay. I'll see you guys in just a minute. Ooh, so I just missed it there. A nasty hit from the Mangonel. Fricasseeing a number of the Elvelyn Marksmen. That was a big hit. And the more they run through the fire as well, once the fire's on the ground, there's I believe a 2 or so second delay before you can safely walk through it without frying yet more of your units. So the Elvelyn, oh, yeah, and you can see the Mangonel at work there. Not the most accurate thing in the world. It is something that, with skill and patience and experience, you can dodge. But sometimes your opponents aren't always going to give you an opportunity to, like in this particular match. Yeah, Velen Marksman, I wonder what they're even trying to pew-pew. They want to thin out some of these Goblin Spears, who happen to be facing the wrong direction. Bit of an oops there from Thunderous Fox. Oh. Oh, there are some hidden units there. It looks like one of them got fried by something. I don't know what. I have no idea what happened here. Let's see what that Mangonel gets up to. Let's go ahead. Turn things up a little bit. Ah, fire arrows. Well, I see. Yeah, and you can see that they're definitely claiming some hidden units in the back here. Mangonel's taking a bit of a rest. Goblin Archers rushing towards the line, eager to exchange fire with the Elvelyn. Not going to do much there, not with those 4 damage Goblin Archers. And the Elvelyn still giving these guys the business. I wonder, any other support units here on the front lines? No, it's just Goblin Infantry. Pretty expendable, and I think Muffins recognizes this and sees that there's not a whole lot here that, at least that he can see that can stop him. Oh, some of the Snog Skirmishers are going to come out of hiding, and they might be able to tear a chunk out of the Nandor Glade Riders. Ooh, that's brutal. Look at that damage there. That's real nasty. I'm going to go ahead and slow things down just a little bit here. Ooh, those Glade Riders taking some fire in exchange from the Snog Skirmishers, and of course the Warg Riders are nearby to make sure that they stay gone. Snow Trolls rushing in to support the Goblin Infantry, but the Goblin Infantry are just here to die. It's the Mount Nuruk Blades that they really want to worry about. That are definitely going to be more than a match for the Elvelyn. Some Gobbo Spears over here. Aaronborn Axemen getting a decent charge against Goblin Infantry, killing about 20 or so of them off the charge. But they're mostly there to die. They'll probably take some more, though, before they ultimately expire. And now this General's charge is complete. Oh, some of the Nandor Glade Guard managing to get through the gaps here. Heavy Goblin Spears getting charged down by the Nandor Glade Riders, hit by the Elvelyn cohort, and, at least in their mind, flanked by the Glade Guard. And that is going to collapse that unit. And now he's going to be forced to respond. He's going to have to throw everything he's got here. He's going to need the Trolls. He's going to need his second line of Mount Nuruk, so you can already see being mobilized. Nandor Glade Guard rushing in here to get a piece of those Goblin Archers, and they are going to eat them for breakfast. There is nothing in here that he can use to stop them aside from the Goblin King's Bodyguard, and even then, it might not be enough. The Nandor Glade Guard has such high damage and their armor piercing. I'm not sure that unaided the Goblin's Bodyguard can potentially defeat them. Oh, got some blackbacks though. Nice matchup for the Nandor. We got over here a general charge from the Mount Nuruk Blades, and this might stop FFA Muffins in his tracks. Let's see how things are going over on the front line. Predictably, the Goblins are being defeated. It's only heavy Goblin Infantry. Oh, the Aaronborn Axemen got a little bit of support here. Actually going to see some value off of them today. The Goblin Spears, I think, should probably be committed at this point, as should the Mount Nuruk Blades. He's going to need to hold this wing, otherwise Muffins is going to be able to squeeze him in towards his center and ultimately crush him. And the lower morale of the Goblin units are not going to like that at all. Ooh, Blackbacks kind of being ignored a little bit by the Nandor, who just want to go for that Mangonel. It seems like Thunderous Fox is a little bit slow to respond here, and the Mangonel is actually going to be taken offline, and that is a big problem for Misty Mountains. Snog Skirmishers here now out in the open, trying to repel the Glade Guard, and the Glade Guard here are probably doomed, but they're not going to break. And meanwhile, the Snog Skirmishers are easy prey for the Elvelyn Marksmen, and more reinforcements moving in now to help just put the extra bit of pressure on the Goblin front line and precipitate it into a total collapse. We got going on over here. Nandor Glade Riders. There's now not really anything that can shoot at them. Oh, Gobbo Archers. What are they shooting at? Oh, the Glade Riders. This is going to hurt them. I would expect to see a fair amount of them drop there from that volley. That was a big broadside, but it looks like they were lucky enough. And a few of them fell. Mount Nuruk Blades getting in there with those sickle-like swords of theirs, but I think this is going to be a fairly one-sided victory for Dorwinion. Getting a look at the shock tactics that they can employ, how potentially powerful that they can be, especially against a build like this. They've got the endurance on their front line and the hard-hitting units to scatter the goblins and really really just drive all of their advantages home and not give this particular build the chance to utilize its greatest strengths, that being its missile units. Warwick Blades here trying to drive back the Erfenen Tower. Glade Guard being employed as well. Gobbo Infantry, or not, there's some Goblin Infantry back here. Got some Trolls as well. And now some of these Heavy Goblin Spears have come back from fighting. These Warwick Skirmishers, oof. What are they even doing? I think they need to be used against the Erfenen Tower more than anything else. Snow Trolls starting to fall away. This is a tough fight. The Elvelen have breached the front line, and they are now beginning to tighten the noose. I think this is going to be the end for Tundra Fox's army. Snaga Skirmishers here being beaten back. Even the mighty Mountain Uruk Blades are struggling here against the combined arms of the Erenvorn Axemen, the Nandor Glade Riders, and the Elvelen cohort. Goblin Spears too slow to react, unfortunately. Some of the Nandor Glade Riders are going to be just breaking and running through the Goblin lines. More cycle charges here into the back of the Goblin King's Bodyguard. Blackback Mountain Berserkers doing their best to hold the line. I would expect them. They don't seem to be doing a whole lot right now. I think they might just be kind of bugged a little bit. They need an attack command to be issued to them, and they should chew apart the Elvelen Vanguard. No problem. What we got in the back here? Mountain Uruk Blades really struggling here, even with the help of the spears against the Nandor Glade Guard. A little bit of support here from the Erfenen Tower, making this an uphill battle for Tundra's Fox all the way. Elvelen cohort charging in. And this is, I think, where we're going to start to see Tundra's Fox's army collapse. He's almost completely surrounded at this point. More skirmishers trying to get a piece of the Nandor Glade Riders. Looks like they managed to rout another unit of them. Goblin Infantry, some hidden Goblin Infantry in the back here. They're needed for other things. Snow Trolls crushing the third unit of Nandor Glade Riders. That's going to be it for the Nandor Cavalry, but I think it's a little bit too little too late for this kind of success. The Elvelen are being overwhelmed here. Erenvorn Axemen now routing off. The Mountain Uruk Blades are going to be able to wrap around them and slowly squeeze them. Reinforcements here in the form of the Heavy Goblin Spears, but their armor piercing is going to be useful against the Vanguard with their lower armor, or with their lower melee defense, rather. Cohort here trying to push through in the center and silence the Goblin Archers. Tundra's Fox is doing his best to bring this back and to focus down the Nandor with his remaining archers. Nice rear fire here against the Erfenen Tower. That's going to be particularly useful against them, as it is going to bypass both their melee defense and their shield value. Cohort here pushing against Mountain Uruk Blades, plus a number of elites. Oh, look at those arrows just flying through the air. The Erfenen Tower are really being focused down. And Glade Guard here are all but extinguished, so it looks like Tundra's Fox has managed to win on a wing and is now putting a lot of pressure on the Elvelen in the center here, or on their left wing, closer to the center. And he's also kind of pulling it back a little bit on this side. Oh, no, now that I say that, I see these guys being thoroughly crushed. There's the Erfenen Tower, going for the Mangonel Catapult Crew? Mangonel Crew? And that's going to be all she wrote for them. Caught out in the open like that by those Forest Knights, there's no coming back. Deathruganerin poised to rear charge here into the Blackback Mountain Berserkers, who were giving the Elvelen such trouble earlier. Goblin King's Bodyguard in the center, along with the Cave Troll Drummers, trying to smash their way through the Elvelen. Unaided, they would certainly do so. Ooh. Trolls, though. Trolls coming in at the right time. And the Warwick Skirmishers, this would be... Oh, if he charged into both of these wings at the same time, this would be beautiful. Oh, unfortunate. Well, some of the Nandor Glade Riders came back from routing, getting a nice charge here into the rear of the Mountain Uruk Blades. Hammer and Anvil strike from the Warwick Skirmishers, really thinning out the Elvelen on this side. I think the Snow Trolls they're needed for something. I mean, at the moment, they're just kind of running around doing nothing. They could be used to help break this this group of Elvelen. I don't think it's going to happen. Deathruganerin scattering the Goblin Infantry for them like leaves against the wind. And the Warg Riders won't stand and fight any longer. And most of the Goblin army is in full retreat at this point. Goblin King's Bodyguard, slowly but surely winning against the Vanguard. I mean, it says that they were winning. But the numbers here, maybe not so much. Look at the percentages there. It's very much a one-sided victory, so far at least in favor of Dorwinion. I don't see any reason why that would change. And the Blades still pushing hard. Let's go ahead and turn it up just a little bit here. Yep. More and more of the Goblins begin to flee. And what remains of Tundra's Fox's forces are being surrounded, and his lines have been broken and rolled up in many places. Deathroot trying to get a nice charge here, which they will ultimately succeed in doing. Even with the morale support from the nearby Goblin infantry or Goblin King's bodyguard, they are starting to think twice about their life choices and maybe begin to flee soon. Well, and marksmen over this direction. I see what they're going to go after. All the Warg skirmishers have been hunted by the Elvelyn marksmen. Now the Snow Trolls are here. The Snow Trolls will probably smash their way through the marksmen, but they're kind of out of the fight now when they are needed to be elsewhere. And there we go. Goblin infantry breaking. Mountain Rogue Blades will be surely be soon to follow. Turn that one up just a little bit. And that's an admit defeat there from Tundra's Fox. He knows when he's beat. That was a tough fight. That's going to be another victory for Dorwinion. Let's take a look at who did what. Deathroot and Edding did reasonably well. The Vine Guard not getting a ton of kills, as you would expect from low damage spears. Cohort did really well. They were paired against Goblin Infantry, though, so that's kind of to be expected. I would not normally see the Elvelian Cohort get those kind of numbers. Nendor Glade Guard did really well as well, 150. Oddly enough, getting outkilled by some of the Elvelian cohorts, but they had other jobs. They were fighting in the center of the enemy formation, which is why they're locked morale. It's the kind of thing they're supposed to do. Glade Riders did really well. Efton and Tower getting another 300 or so kills. Very powerful unit. And the Marksmen did decent as well. So all around, lots of kills for everybody, but again, it's goblins. They're craptastic kills. Not exactly high-value targets. Not a lot of high-value targets in the Goblin army. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And that means, predictably, the next one is going to be a defeat, as I'm sure you've surmised. Yeah. Well, pardon me. Hope you guys have enjoyed these two so far, and I will see you in just a moment.